Part 2 of the XC Falcon inspection series. If you haven't seen part 1, if you're just joining us now for the first time, I recently bought an XC Falcon, a 78 XC Falcon, all the way from New South Wales.
Now that's a pretty huge distance. For those of you who aren't in Australia, that's the same as buying a larder from the Russian border and having it shipped to London. Or smuggling a Dark Elf all the way from Morrowind into Skyrim so he can take care of your dragon problem due to his natural fire resistance.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
And then I got it inspected just to get a list of the things that I needed to transfer the registration over to Western Australian registration. Now the car is still registered in New South Wales, so I can still drive it around and enjoy it, which is what I'm doing. But there's a couple of minor things that came up on the inspection that I have to get fixed before the re-inspection. Hopefully this Friday. I need to book that in. I should probably book that in before there's no space left. Highly encourage you to go view the first video, which I'll put somewhere around here. But if you can't be asked doing that, here's a quick recap.
Started the video off by saying, hey everyone, look at this cool car that I just bought. Changed the air filter, took the oil out, lubed the ring, put some oil back in it, put the incorrect spark plugs in it. Then I pissed everyone off by taking off this chrome bar and replacing it with a powder-coated black bar, which I think looks better, but whatever. Then I tackled the list of things.
Left front wheel liner, done. Heat riser pipe, done. Exhaust, done. Transmission leak, done. Loose sticky seat, done. Check strap, done. Got it. All right, so gonna wrap it up there for now. And that brings us to now. We're in the middle of doing the rocker cover gasket. I've painted the rocker cover. I've got the new ignition leads on, the Eagle 8mm ignition leads. I think the silver and the blue is gonna look a whole lot better than what it was, which was the orange and yellow. Horrible. And then after that's back together, probably a whole can of degreaser around the engine. Get it looking nice and fresh, and that will take care of the oil leak situation. And then after that, there's a couple more things on the list which we need to adjust, which I've got some fancy new parts ready to go on, some white line suspension components, a couple of other cool things. But we get straight into this and get that list smashed out so we can get this thing past the pits inspection.
All right, straight off the rip, we're applying some RTV sealant, some gasket goop, whatever you want to call it. It goes by many names, but it does the same thing. It just helps seal up, especially when you're using these shoddy cork gaskets. So I let it dry for a little bit before putting the cork gasket on, just to make sure that the cork gasket stays in place, which it didn't anyway, so it was a waste of time. Anyways, got the rocker cover on. That is looking fresh. Lightly do up the bolts, obviously to prevent distorting the thin metal of the rocker cover. And then I put the leads on. This is already looking beautiful, might I add. The silver and the blue was a beautiful idea.
But they're beautiful. What am I going to do? I can't lie.
Thank you, Donald. And I think getting the leads pointing the same way with the text, you can see the text all lines up. Just finishing touches on this. Looks fantastic. Right now we're putting on the acceleration cable and the choke cable, making sure that's perfectly adjusted before putting on the air filter and finishing things up with the last two bolts.
All right, fix the leak on the engine, done. And that looks pretty bloody trick. Of course, it would be better if I did the air cleaner, the same silver. That would look pretty cool, but we're not going too over the top because we're just getting it past the inspection. Make it look a little bit nice, make it look nice and neat so they can look at it and say, yep, this guy's obviously put in some work, because that will soon be this, or this will soon be in that.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
So I'm not going to spend lots of time on the engine. As long as it drives and gets me to the cafe, gets me to lunch, what we want. Oh, hang on, let's just get this. Oh no! Okay, I did forget one thing, which is this thing here is called the PCV valve. There's a rubber grommet that goes there. That isn't there anymore because it had turned to bloody rock. All right, also forgot to put the heat transfer pipe back on, so that's back on. Couldn't find a grommet in my collection that would suit that, so I'm gonna have to pop down the rare spares before the inspection and grab another one, or either that or super cheap or I'm gonna get some sort of universal grommet. But now it's done. Next on the list, sway bars, rectify excessive movement, worn or missing bushes, rubbers, rear sway bar. So let's get under and see what they're talking about. Right, so here we have the rear sway bar, which connects to the chassis here through this link pin, and then connects to the rear axle there, and then over that side there. Now, I can move that through the bush. The rubbers here are all cracked and old as well, so Those bushings are all worn. Now, I could just buy new bushes. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've got some Nolothane bushes sitting here already. So I could have fixed that issue for free, but where's the fun in that? So I spent $400 on a white line sway bar. Obviously, because if I'm gonna mess with that, this rear end needs to be solid. So I will be swapping to the 9-inch diff, which is sitting in the back of this XA at the moment. But I won't be doing that until it's past inspection. So we'll get this on there because that will be staying in there. And when I transfer over to the 9-inch diff, this will just attach to the 9-inch diff instead. So let's get under there, slap this in. At the same time, I'm gonna take out those lowering blocks, which it didn't fail for the lowering blocks. It wasn't the lowering blocks that were an issue. One of the issues was these rims extend very close to the U-bolts and the tire sort of goes under the U-bolt. So there's potential for the U-bolt to hit the tire, puncture the tire. So that will be fixed when the stock wheels go on, but the stock wheels are smaller, which then means the lowering blocks might become an issue. It might be too low, the car might be too low. So I'm gonna take them out. Same with the front springs. I hope I don't have to change the front springs. We'll get these thick boys off, take the lowering blocks out. Now, once I take out the lowering blocks, obviously these U-bolts are gonna be way too long. So I'm gonna cut these U-bolts, only because once we're past and I put that 9-inch in out of the XA has lowered leaf springs. I won't need the lowering blocks again. You can see what I mean there. I actually cut these U-bolts before the inspection. Now you can imagine before I cut them, they were pretty much sitting very close to the rim, uncomfortably close to the rim. And if you had some travel in this tire, you could come up and puncture it. So we'll cut the U-bolts back to standard length, take the lowering block out and put in a fancy white line sway bar. And that'll be the rear end done.
So we're taking off the sway bar now, and if you don't know what a sway bar does, it's essentially a bar that connects to the left and right side of your suspension and stops your car from rolling, helps it keep flat through the corners, giving you a little bit more control and traction, unless you are a P-plater that's just bought a Nissan Patrol. In that case, a sway bar is something that you've thrown in the bin immediately after getting home.
All right, so old versus new. Obviously the white line one is a smidge thicker. I think I went, what did I do? 19 mil, 18 mil? I'm not too sure. We've got the full kit here, which comes with more than what I need. So this comes with the brackets to mount the sway bar to the diff, sort of universal ones. Whereas currently I've got ones that are welded on there. I hope I don't have to cut them off. I hope they're not specific. If the D brackets to hold this to the diff aren't compatible with what's currently on there, hopefully I can still fit those over it. But we'll get this out and have a gander. All right, so I will have to use these ones. I won't be able to use the factory points. Obviously they're way too small. I want a bigger size. So I'll have a gander. Once I take the lowering blocks out, I'll check to see if I can just keep those there and mount these sort of either side of it and see that it doesn't foul on it. Probably not, but if we have to cut something up, no biggie. So let's get these lowering blocks out, shorten those U-bolts, get the diff to where it'll be sitting for the inspection, and then we'll install the sway bar at the right height. Absolutely massive adjustable link pins, which are very much a universal fit. Now these are way bigger than the factory pin that I have. So when you take into consideration the factory link pin length and compare it to what they've given me, it's considerably longer. That's the shortest I can make this one. And that's what it's set to at factory. Bit of a discrepancy there, but obviously with an aftermarket sway bar, probably the gap that they want for the correct sort of torsion. So I guess we'll throw this one in first and see how it goes. If it's too much to try and push it down, then we'll put the factory one in.
You know how you sit under your car and you go, please God, don't make me get out the grinder. This is a video of me realizing I have to get out the grinder.
All right, little update. So I did turn the camera off because there was a lot going on and a lot that needed to happen. And the camera getting in my way, there's not much room under the car. So I just said, I'll show you guys once I'm done. So it's mounted up. I've used the links that they've given me. did need to be a little bit longer, but I also had to cut the factory mounts off. Couldn't go either side of them. Had to remove the factory mounts off the diff, which is a-okay. So we've got new sway bar in, it's all tight. We've removed the lowering blocks, and now that should give the car quite a good stance. Lowered at the front, jacked up at the rear, bit of rake. My old XC, that was the same thing I had in my old XC Falcon Ute. I had it jacked up in the rear and lowered in the front, and it looked pretty sick. But let's get these thick boys back on and see how it looks with the new setup. Actually, before that goes on, oh, fuck yeah. I don't know about you guys, but that looks pretty wild. I think it looks a bit too wild, maybe a bit too silly, but I'm running with it for now.
Sorry, a little interjection here. I'm just editing, and that looks fucking sick. I absolutely love how that looks. I don't care what anyone says about originality. That is peak.
Now, next on the list is the front suspension play, which is the tie rod ends have a little bit of play in them. So I've gotten pretty much the front rack out of the XA, which, as you can see here, is all new bits. It's all nice and powder coated. Looks nice. New pitman arm, new idler arm. It's all fresh looking. And as well on the XA, we have brand new heavy duty white line sway bar. So I'll be taking that out and replacing front sway bar in this. The only thing I've also got to do is replace the springs. So with the 17-inch wheels on, it's not too low, but when I put these 14-inch wheels on, it sits way too close to the ground with the lowered springs. Only just, it sits like 90, there's like 90 mil off the ground at some points, and that's not gonna pass. So, gotta put these factory springs back in. And I hate doing springs, but that's this morning's job. It's bloody already 2 o'clock. Jesus. All right, that's this afternoon's job. So I've definitely got no time to waste. I need to have this driving in a couple of hours. So let's get straight into it.
Flip crunched up his face. He saw that shot and smiled. The loss of the great cold sun. I would have found it. Now take it right side up. Green swept hell. Jumbles of black rock jutting on the slope. And it shot. Thundered the loss. And instantly main marriage. Excited muttering swept the Lord.
All right, there's the other one. Absolutely cooked. Tire ends are cooked. Looks like shit. All the bushes are all cooked. Here's the new one. Fresh as. Night and day, powder coated. All fresh bits. The only thing is I've got to try and get the tie rods as close to that as possible. So I'll essentially just measure center of here to the center of there and do the same on these ones and get them same.
So here I'm measuring the old tie rod ends and transferring that measurement over to the new ones. Now, you'll never get it perfect, but if you can get it close enough that it just drives in a straight line, then you're good to go. And here, I thought the camera was recording normally, but it was actually on time-lapse. So, I don't know what I'm talking about. Presumably something about the lower control arm, because then I started working on the lower control arm. But then I started doing work on the front sway bar. Now, the front sway bar is actually totally different to the rear sway bar in that it's located at the front of the car. It does the same job though.
All right, so now the steering links and the tie rods are done. Here's the sway bar. Bit of a thickness improvement on the factory sway bar. So this already had the aftermarket Nolafane pins installed, the same ones that I'm using. So I'll pretty much just do the same length. It looks like they're set to the same length already, which is a bit of a win. But I'll set them to the same length. And we'll get this big, thick sucker installed. All right, big old sway bar done, although sway bar wasn't on the list. It's done anyways. Oh, speaking of not being on the list, Sugar, what are you doing in here? Come on. Now, I know I said I was going to do the springs and take it back up to factory height, but I'm running out of time. I've got to be somewhere this afternoon. And because the focus is at the painters currently getting the bonnet painted, the XC is now my daily car. So I can't leave it on jack stands overnight. I've got to use it. I've got to use it to do daily. Oh my God. Sugar. I mean, how can you resist a face like that? So tomorrow is Friday. The inspection is actually, I booked it for Monday, just so I wasn't rushing. Thank God for that. So we'll catch it tomorrow when I'm doing springs and finishing off the list. I've got to do stuff like the self-cancelling of the indicator. I've got to suss that out. And that should bring us pretty much to an end. I think the only other thing is adjust the headlights, but that'll take 7 seconds. And I've got to do that at night. So I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And it is the next day. I'm already balls deep into what needs to be done today. Changing out the springs, lower control arms and the caster arms, because caster arm bushes are worn out, and I thought, well, I'm doing lower control arms, I've got to detach them from the lower control arms. I might as well just send it and change them out. And you guessed it, the XA has fresh bushes, which I will be pillaging. As you can see, they're not much light, but I'm sure you get the idea. Nice and powder coated. And fresh North Aim bushes. It is a horrible day outside today. Pissing down rain. I got the Focus back from the paint shop this morning. I'm not going out there to show you what it looks like, so you can imagine what it looks like with a blue bonnet. I might show you at the end of the episode. But you might be thinking, I'm just pillaging the XA of all these parts. That poor XA. And you're right, yeah, that poor XA, because as you can see, a lot needs to be done. There's a lot going on here because I'm finding all the parts for the XC Falcon Ute that I need to put with it to sell the XC Falcon Ute. So it looks like a bit of a brothel. But a lot of panel work needs to be done. And to do the panel work, I need to get the drive line out. And the drive line will be going from here into that. So this will be getting the Clevo, the 9-inch rear end, the C4, all that sort of jazz. And once the drive line's out, I'm gonna put this on a rotisserie. So I grab a rotisserie, put this on a rotisserie so I can finish doing the panel work properly. And to put all that into the XC requires the XC to be over the pits, inspected, registered, all that sort of jazz. And to get that done, we need to finish doing this job right here. So I'm just gonna get straight back into it. You're distracting me from doing the work. So let's get these lower control arms out and the springs out. I hate doing springs. I absolutely despise doing springs. Right now, if you've ever done lower control arms on an old car before, you know these camber adjustment bolts can be absolutely shite to get out. They basically just rust in place. They're solid in there. You can see here you got this little access hole to put a socket on and rattle it out. It's also to get some sort of brass drift in there so you can punch it out. But when you've done one or two in your life, you say, I don't like doing that at all. So you got to have these little hacks, and this is the little hack that I have for getting these out. Little hydraulic pincers, but they just open and they're hydraulic in the opposite direction to clamping. So slap that in there, wind up the hydraulics, pushes the bolt out, easy as sorted. Jesus. All right, so it is actually the next day. Getting that camber bolt out was a situation. Pretty much tried everything all the way up until cutting it. I should have just gone straight to cutting it. But yeah, I had to duck down to the shops to get some metal cutting blades for the Sawzall and then cut the camber bolts out like that. So that actually took me a while before I even got to that point, and then having to go to the store that sells them took me like an hour because of where I live. So came to the end of the day and I'd pretty much just done one side. So that's that side done. You'll see the sway bar is currently disconnected. That's because I'm doing this side now and I'm going straight to cutting out the bolt. I'm not fucking around. And I also need to drop the sway bar down a little bit so I can cut. See that pointed, there it is. See that bit of metal right there? That actually hits on the sway bar when I'm driving, causing a bit of a noise. So I've just got to chamfer that piece right there on both sides. But yeah, that's where we're at. Currently I'm doing this other side now. So change out the spring, lower control arm, caster arm, etc. Same dealio. But I did just stop filming yesterday because I was just trying to get that bolt out and it was taking so long. So if you just cut it out straight off the rip, you don't spend time trying all the other weak dog methods, especially if you've got replacement. I've got other caster bolts there, so I don't know why I was trying to save it. Anyways, back into this.
If you're changing ball joints and you don't have a set of these ball joint splitting forks, put yourself in the bin because they are a bloody lifesaver. You've got to get some. Anyways, disconnecting everything else connected to the lower control arm before ripping out the hacksaw and using the metal cutting blade to cut through both sides of the camber adjustment bolt, which took a very bloody long time before finally getting it loose, pulling it out, and then eventually changing the springs out and finishing the job.
All right, so springs are now done. It's all done. Control arms, springs, it's all done. I ended up just turning off the camera and sending it because I really needed to get it done. So this now looks as factory as it did when it came out of the factory, minus the chrome bar. I know a lot of you are upset over the chrome bar now being powder coated black. Bear with me here. It'll all make sense eventually, but for now, I mean, you can't argue with that. That looks beautiful. Factory high, I did do a wheel alignment. Now, if you really want to know how the wheel alignment was done, I really should have filmed it because it is quite interesting if you haven't done it before. But I'll just set it up for you now and I'll show you how I did the wheel alignment. So you need 2 jack stands, one at the front, one at the rear, and you need some string. I think this is some bricklayers string. This is perfect. Set it up to a point where it's going to be crossing over the center of the wheel. So I'm talking horizontally across the midpoint of both front and rear wheels. Oh yeah, the focus is back from the painters. Got the bonnet done. A lot of people said leave the bonnet black. I said nay, get it painted. Now it's all matching. The nitrous blue absolutely pops off in the sunlight. The carbon fiber front Duberwacky looks fantastic. So now that car is finally complete. I just need to put the lowered front springs back in and that'll be up for sale. But I mean, God, doesn't it look good in the sun? Anyways, back to this. Hook the string up and you just pull it until it's tight. Now, you want to get a steel rule or a tape measure or whatever your preferred method of measuring is. So you want to measure from where the string is to the edge of the rim, and you want to get front and rear on the rear wheel exactly the same. If it's 10 centimeters front, 11 centimeters rear, you need to just tap your jack stand in until you get 10.2 centimeters here and 10.2 centimeters there. This needs to be, this is the foundation of your wheel alignment. These, both front and back, need to be bloody spot on. So I'm not going to do it now, but just for our sake here, we're looking at bang on 4.5, 4.6, I would say. I'd go 4.6. Now I'll come over here and we're sitting at like 53. So that's not good enough. So I'm going to move this. All right, imagine that says 60 and that says 6. Oh, it actually does. Oh, yeah, bloody right. Right, 60, 60. Now we know this line is running parallel to the vehicle because unless something's gone horribly wrong, your rear axle should be pretty parallel. Now this is for old cars, all right? This is for live axle old. This isn't, don't do this wheel alignment for your bloody Focus RS, all right? This is to get the wheels pointing straight so you can drive it to Bob Jane T-Mart and get them to put it on their machine and do it all properly. Because I've done all of the suspension, everything on this car on the front end. The wheels were pointing in different bloody directions. No matter how much I tried to match it to the previous parts, they still looked like the thing had bloody cerebral palsy. So this is how I did it, just to get the wheels pointing straight. And now that we know that the string is true, come here, we do the same thing. We go, oh, you know, what do we got here? We got 80 and then we got 75. Now that's because the steering wheel's not straight and I'm pointing a little bit this way. But essentially, you want to get this pretty straight. Now I know they say, you know, front wheel drive cars need a little bit of toe out because when the front wheels pull, it toes in. Rear wheel drive cars, you want a little bit of toe in because they go straight. I just want to get it straight so I can drive it to somewhere. Alignment done all this different stuff. I'm just going to get them straight. And if it has a little bit of toe in, that's okay. I don't mind that. I'll set it as that. I'm not driving 50,000 kilometers on my little string wheel alignment. This is just to get it to the tire store. Anyways, rant aside, that's how I did it. Front wheels, just pointing the right way. Steering wheel, pretty straight, good to go. Anywho, onto the demister.
Now, others would have you believe that I have sped this video up 5,000 times. But in actual fact, I've just had about 3 white monster energies and I just want to get the bloody job done because I hate working under dashes. It is an absolute trash job. What was I talking about again? What was I even doing?
All right, to get the air blowing up on the screen, the lever on the actual heater box was pretty seized up. So I just had to move it up and down manually a fair bit. And because it had seized up, the cable had come off the lever where you used to control it to turn it on and off. So I'm gonna need to get another cable because that cable's bent out in all different directions. I can guarantee I've got a whole bunch of cables over there attached to that heater box. So some more pilfering will have to be had, but I've just left it onto the screen now. So when they test it, we got air blowing up there. Now, when I did turn that on for the first time, it just blew up like years worth of dust. So I don't think that's been working for quite some time, but it works now. So demister done. The next fix is a quick one. It said this was a head strike zone, so this requires a cover. Now, I think if I just done, I bought 2 of these off of Rare Spares. I think it was $30 for 2 of them. And as you'll see here, I've got 3 because immediately after buying these online, I went into a spare room to look for something else and I found this. But we got new ones. So, seatbelt, head strike zone, done. Okay, now we are on to the bane of this car. The one thing that is stopping it from being registered. I've done all this work to this car, but none of it matters if I can't fix the indicator not being able to self-return. Now the indicator doesn't self-return because it wears out over time. In fact, I actually pulled the steering column out of that XC Falcon I have there to see if I could use that indicator. And I'll show you what we're dealing with. So when you turn, you go, we're turning left. Actually, let's say we're turning right. So, it's hard to do it when it's not connected. Regardless, this little doober pokes out, it can move up and down, and as you can see, it can move in. But when you turn your steering wheel, this needs to be pushed in and then that resets it. When that gets pushed in, it goes, resets that to central. And the issue is here, you can see that's been worn out, so it doesn't travel, sort of oval has been worn out to not so much an oval. That has happened to this one. So the indicator does not self-cancel. Now, they make brand new reproduction parts for these indicators for pretty much every other bloody car other than an XC. Rare Spares, I don't know what yous are doing out there, but why not the XC? And it's also one of the most common things that you find yourself fixing when trying to fix up one of these old girls. Now, you can send yours away to get rebuilt, and I did check that. The current wait time is around 6 weeks. I don't have 6 weeks, and it costs like $200. You can buy a rebuilt one for $500. More than it's like $550. It's bloody ludicrous is what it is. Anyways, I found one on eBay from Cleveland Spares. Now, it was $200. It looks good. It hasn't been rebuilt. He says it looks good. It should work. If it doesn't work, I've just wasted $200 and I'm gonna have to go and I don't know what I'm gonna do then. But let's get it out of the packaging and see if it works. It has to work. The thing, if this doesn't work, I'm back to, I've got to order another one, I've got to wait another 2 weeks, and this can't get registered. So this is what's holding it up. All right, here it is. Now, there is a little bit of wear around that, but it doesn't matter as long as I can indicate left. Oh, it does, it works, We're onto a winner. If I indicate left, it's hard to show it when it's not mounted in, but when you turn left, the steering wheel goes this way, and it moves this little, some of you might be getting turned on by me doing that, but it moves that little knob up, and then when you turn right, it should self-cancel. There's a bit of resistance there, you go, oh, I did it, I beat the system. $200, we have a working indicator mechanism. I didn't have to spend $500. That's why you should gamble. All right, changing out the indicator. Easy as piss. Take this little pad off. 2 little screws around the back. We're trying to get to this thing here, this little doober wacky. Slide that little piece off for seemingly no reason whatsoever. And then undo. All right, little pad off. Most important thing when you're taking stuff off that has little screws that are very easy to lose is you put them somewhere that you can easily knock and never find them again. So make sure you put them in a very forgettable location. Now you got this nut here. This is holding on the steering wheel. Undo this bastard, get the steering wheel off. Now you may realize that it's already pretty much loose. I need you to understand that's never the case. I've already taken this wheel off, obviously to have a look at the indicator, try and repair it myself before spending money on a new one. So if you're doing this for the first time, you're gonna have a shit time trying to get the steering wheel off. You just gotta grab onto it, shake it around, pull it, or use a steering wheel puller, but it'll never just come off like that. I need you to understand. Once again, take the nut, put it somewhere where you're gonna totally forget about it. All right, steering wheel comes off. Now we'll take this little shroud off. It's just these 4 screws there. And there we have it. We have access to my non-functioning indicator. You can see how worn out that is. That is absolutely cooked. And you can see that when I move it around, the pin just flops around in there like a sausage in a hallway. So this piece here is called your indicator return cam or something of that description. That is your locating lug that goes into your steering wheel. Make sure that it Turns off your steering wheel. And these little doobawackies here are what contact that little magical nipple there that is meant to return it to the position. So, as you can see, if I'm turning left, then when I turn right, that should reset it. But no, it just moves around in that massive gap that's been worn into it. So that does nothing. I might send this one away to get repaired. So that way I've got a brand newie in case this one ever fails. So only held in by these 2 screws. All right, now we have access. As you can see, the wires are just poked into their little holes and they're soldered in. So I will need to do the same. To get those out, I'll have to get the soldering iron out and melt the solder that's in there, and then take the wires out, put them in the new one. Make sure I remember exactly where goes where. What I look going on this one, I'm just gonna double check that they have, is that bloody different? All right, of course, totally bloody different. Right on. I'm sure this indicator half is exactly the same. It's just the method of which the wires connect to it that is slightly different. Obviously, a plug is designed to go on that one, I believe. I'm wondering if I can disconnect this brown plastic piece here, disconnect this from that, and then sort of do the old half and half. All right, give me a couple of minutes to look at it and think about it, and I'll get back to you. All right. Thank you for your patience there. Here's what I have come up with. This is the new switch with the plug off of the other XC's indicator. Turns out, basically once you draw these ends off, they separate. There's nothing that's really holding in there. It's just contact points that is holding them there. And this piece is identical. Put that on there. I've had to use a zip tie, obviously, because the way that these are fixed there is that when this housing is cast, there's these little posts that go through here and then they hammer them flat like that. I don't know if that's focused on it, but because I've had to drill those ends out, I have run it down and connected it to the car, and ignition on. Indicator works in both ways, as well as the high beam. This one's good to go. Just doing that, just literally swapping the back end out, seems to have worked. Take this off and then put this straight onto there, because this loom contains the wires for this light, whereas this one does not have those wires. I'll drill that one out, put that onto that, and I'll see you when that's done.
Drilling out the flattened top of the post so we can separate the 2 pieces. Very easy, nothing holding them together. Put the new one on in place of the cooked one and use the zip tie to fasten it to the car, and that's about as factory finish as you can get, I reckon.
I will see you all punished.
All right, so that's all working on there. As you can see, I've got a zip tie holding the plug onto the back of the housing. Now, I've only got these sort of medium-sized zip ties. I do need smaller zip ties, little tiny skinny zip ties. So I'm going to duck down to Repco, grab some smaller zip ties. At the same time, there's just a couple of other things I need to grab. And then once I grab those smaller zip ties, I'll be able to attach this plug onto the housing without having an interference on the shroud that goes over. Because as I put the shroud on, this zip tie just sort of goes over it. And as you can tell, this zip tie, like, that's going to end up falling off. Look, now it's doing enough, right? So get some smaller zip ties to ensure that's good. I'm going to shoot off to Repco, obviously not in this. I'll take the RS. You can come with me, or you can stay here and wait for me to get back. A little choose your own adventure. If you want to stay here and wait for me to get back, just hit the skip button right now. But if you want to come with me, let's go. I don't know why you guys came with me. It's just a boring trip down to Repco. So you can see what my gear stick says. It's a gear stick cam. All right, and we're back. And just like that, I've fixed it with the smaller zip ties. I actually might keep it this way. So as you can see, I just drilled a hole in this little web bit there, top and bottom for the zip ties to pass through. So now we've got a nice clean zip tie going around there, passing around the back behind the wires and just clamping that on there as though it was riveted on there. That is basically as factory as it gets. So let's get the shroud, get the steering wheel back on, and that's the real test to see if it works with everything connected. All right, so that's the indicator done. Now, before I drive it on the road and test it out for real, I have to fix one thing up that I cooked up in the last video. Now, in the last video, I did install the incorrect spark plugs. I installed the plugs that I remembered using when I used to have an XC Falcon with a 250 crossflow, except my 250 crossflow had an alloy head. This has an iron head, and the spark plugs are different. You would have seen that when I put them next to each other, the alley head spark plug had a washer on it, a crush washer. The other one was a tapered seat. So incorrect plugarinos. So I've got the correct ones here. Put these correct ones in, take the other ones out, and maybe just put them aside. They cost like $10 each, so I kind of want to put them to use.
You ever seen a black chain spark plugs before? Excellent. We can skip to the next part, moving the focus out of the way so I can drive this on the road and test out the indicator. time to test the indicator. Got the new spark plugs done. First start in about a week. Haven't started in about a week, so a little bit of choke. If you don't know what the choke does, that just blocks off the intake. Essentially just blocks the intake a little bit. It's a little butterfly valve, and as I pull that out, it starts to close, and that just means less air, more fuel. Helps it with starting up. And speaking of more fuel, always do the old double tap, and she should start straight up. And she should start straight up. Just a little bit of choke. And she should start straight up. Then you adjust the choke from there. Give it a bit of revs. Right on, I'll let that warm up a little bit and then we'll take it for a drive, go around a roundabout and see if this indicator self-returns. If it doesn't, fuck, horrible day, and it's gonna be about another week before I can buy another one and get another one in and sort that out, so that'll be fun. Don't even need to drive it anymore. Mission accomplished. We are ready for inspection, baby. Let's do a U-turn, get this back in the garage. Oh, hang on, I've got to get that bloody grommet sorted, don't I? We'll get that done today, but let's turn around. Let's just do it one more time, eh? Ooh-wee! I got a fancy car now. All right, let's get this thing booked in for its inspection. I've been holding off booking in for the next inspection until I knew for sure that that was fixed. And now we do. We're good to go. All right, after a little bit of a scare, she's booked in to go for inspection on Monday. It is Thursday. This video is going to come out Saturday. I rang probably 6 or 7 places and they couldn't get me in for about 2 weeks. So luckily this place close by could get me in Monday, 11 a.m. Ideally, I wanted the place that had inspected it beforehand because then they know I've put heaps of cars through them, they know me. But I'm hoping I can just give these guys the list of things that I was told to fix up. They have a look underneath it, they go, man, this guy's changed everything, and it's good to go. So, 11 o'clock Monday, she's booked in for rego. So, now that that's sorted, let's take it for a bloody drive. Look, I tell you what, I really am growing on the factory look. There's just something special about this car when it looks the way that it did when it rolled off the showroom floor. As much as I like the raked look, I will admit this does have a special appeal to it when it looks factory. But that is the end of the episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the reaction on the previous video. I did not expect that to go as crazy as it did. It's got, at the time of me filming this, it's got like 80,000 views, which is absolutely insane. I don't even know how to react to that. So thank you guys so much. If you joined me from that video, thank you so much for subscribing and liking the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you feel like I've entertained you enough that you can give me a little subscribe, give the video a like, just so you can stay up to date on the journey of this XC Falcon. And let me tell you, it will be a journey. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video where this goes for inspection, hopefully passes, and we head straight to the Department of Main Roads, get the registration plates. And the original plan was to start doing the modifications, but I mean, those wheels and tires and just maybe lowering the front end, and that might be all I need to do, because the microphone ran out of battery right at this point. Talk about timing. But all I'm saying is I do like the way the car looks now. It probably doesn't need anything else done to it after the wheels and tires are put onto it. So once again, thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.